My name is Hannah Mercer, and I'm 33 years old. If you walked into my life on an ordinary Tuesday, you'd probably think I'm the least dramatic person you've ever met. My fridge is labeled, my bills are on autopay, and my idea of treating myself is upgrading from store-brand cereal to the one with the cartoon mascot. My credit score is quietly smug. My closet is 90% neutrals. My nights are a rotation of library books and leftovers. For a long time, I thought that kind of boring meant safe. I've been with my boyfriend Ethan for 2 years. We've lived together for 8 months in a modest 2-bedroom apartment with thin walls and decent light. We split the rent, split the utilities, split the groceries. On paper, it looks fair. We met through a mutual friend at one of those rooftop parties where everyone pretends they're not counting how many Instagram stories they're in. Ethan manages a menswear store for a designer brand I'd never heard of before him. He always cared about presentation, how the drape of a shirt communicates, how the right watch signals where you see yourself in 5 years. I thought it was just work talk at first, something he'd shed when he got home and into sweatpants. He never really did. If you scroll his phone, it's full of outfits, showrooms, and tagged posts from people I will never run into at the grocery store. Sometimes late at night, a photo of his ex, Lila, long legs, glossy hair, champagne glass held just so, will flash across my feed because someone liked something old. He never talks about her much, but when he does, it's always about how she just got luxury, as if understanding price points is a love language. My birthday was last Tuesday. I'm not big on celebrations, but Ethan had been hinting for weeks that he wanted to do something elevated this year. Dinner at this upscale place he'd been dying to try. "It'll be good for both of us," he said, half joking, half serious. "You've never really had a tasting menu experience." I said yes because it mattered to him, and because saying no felt like admitting I didn't belong in his world. We had a reservation at 7. Ethan came out of the bedroom in a perfectly cut blazer, the kind of navy that probably had its own Pantone name. He smoothed the lapels and turned so I could see the label on the inside. "New season," he said. "Associate discount finally came through." I wore a simple black dress I'd bought on sale last year and a pair of heels that didn't murder my feet. He kissed my cheek, told me I looked very classic, and we headed out. The restaurant was the kind of place where the lighting makes everyone look better and the menu doesn't bother with prices next to every item, just puts them in a neat column as if they're a footnote. Ethan knew the host by name, of course, and made sure to say, just loud enough, "Yeah, we've been trying to get in here for weeks." Dinner was fine. Good, even. The food came out as little sculptures on giant plates. Ethan narrated each dish like a food critic. I mostly tried not to drop anything on the tablecloth. But under the chatter, I could feel something coiled in him. He kept checking the time on his phone, glancing toward the bar, adjusting his watch so the logo caught the light. It felt less like my birthday and more like an audition I didn't remember signing up for. Around 8:30, dessert arrived. A tiny chocolate thing with a candle stabbed into it like a flag. "Happy birthday," Ethan said, smiling his public smile, the one he uses when someone's camera is on. The waiter set a small wrapped box beside my plate. Ethan straightened, hands folded like he was waiting for a grade. I unwrapped it carefully, because that's what you do when you grew up in a house where paper got folded to be reused. Inside was a watch, sleek face, leather band, minimal design. "It's from that boutique I showed you," he said quickly, "the one I said everyone in the industry is obsessed with right now." "It's beautiful," I said, and meant it, even if everyone in the industry didn't include me. "Thank you." "It's the same model that guy from the fall campaign wore. They sold out, but I talked to the buyer and they held one back." He said it like an achievement, like this gift was a small miracle he'd pulled out of thin air. "I love it," I said. I put it on even though I knew I'd be taking it off as soon as we got home. With my line of work, desk jobs, spreadsheets, client calls, my phone tells me the time just fine. But I appreciated the effort, the thought, the way he'd clearly worked to get it. He looked satisfied, like he'd passed the test. We split the bill, like we always do. He didn't argue when I slid my card across the table, just watched to make sure the server charged the right amount. On the drive home, the city lights streamed by, like a screensaver. Ethan tapped the steering wheel in time with the music, then lowered the volume. "So," he said, voice casual, "I've been thinking about my birthday." "It's in 3 weeks," I said. "I know." "There's this necklace I've been eyeing," he said. "White gold, small diamond pendant, very clean. It's from that jeweler on 5th. You know, the one I showed you. I sent you the link last week." "I remember," I said. I'd opened the link on my lunch break, sucked in a quiet breath at the price, and bookmarked it anyway. I'd already been saving in secret for weeks by then. "It's just, I've never had a piece like that," he went on. "Lila got me some great stuff, but nothing like this. It's very me, you know?" I felt something twist at the mention of her name, small and mean. He rarely said Lila out loud. "I'll think about it," I said carefully. "I'm just figuring out the budget." He went quiet. Not the easy kind of silence. The kind that thickens the air. "My birthday's in 3 weeks, Johan," he said finally. "I know," I said, "and I've been thinking about it. I just have to make the numbers work." He sighed through his nose. "It's not like I'm asking for a yacht. It's an investment piece." I didn't answer. I stared out the window and tried not to think about the spreadsheet I'd color-coded to make that exact necklace possible. When we got home, I went straight to the bedroom to change. When I came back out, Ethan was on the couch, holding a small box I recognized instantly. The box I'd hidden in the back of the closet behind my off-season coats. "What's this?" he asked. My stomach dropped so fast I felt dizzy. That's for your birthday," I said. "I hid it so you wouldn't find it." "Why is it in the closet?" he asked, already lifting the lid. "Because it's a surprise," I said, but the word landed uselessly between us. He opened the box. Inside, nested in velvet, was the necklace. White gold, small diamond pendant, custom-length chain. The one from the link. The one I'd spent 2 months saving for, picking up extra shifts, saying no to takeout and new shoes and anything that wasn't rent or utilities. He held it up between his fingers, letting it dangle in the lamplight. Then he made a face. "This looks cheap," he said. "Did you get it from a mall kiosk or something?" The room went very quiet. I could hear the fridge humming, the pipes ticking. "What?" I said. "I mean, it's nice that you tried," he went on, oblivious. "But this isn't the one I sent you. The chain is thin, and the diamond is tiny. It looks like a knockoff." "It's not a knockoff," I said. "It's from the exact jeweler who made the one in the link. I had it custom made." He laughed, not kindly. "Custom? Hannah, no offense, but this is not custom. Look at it." He held it closer to his own face, squinting like he was examining something under a microscope. "This is exactly what you asked for," I said. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. 2 months. I've been saving for 2 months. "Well," he said, shrugging, "you should have saved longer, or gotten something different. This just doesn't read as quality. If I wore this, people would think you grabbed it from a discount bin." Something shifted in my chest. Not anger, not yet. It was more like a lens snapping into focus, like the moment you realize the background noise you've been ignoring is actually an alarm that never stopped ringing. "Fair enough," I said. He blinked. "What?" "Fair enough," I repeated. My voice sounded strangely calm to my own ears. "If you don't like it, I'll return it." "I didn't say return it," he protested. "I just said it's not what I wanted. There's a difference." "You called it cheap," I said. "You said it would embarrass you, so I'll take it back. No big deal." "You're being dramatic," he said, setting the box on the coffee table like it offended him. "I'm being practical," I said. "You don't like it. I'll get my money back." He stood up, shaking his head. "Whatever. Do what you want. I'm going to bed." He walked down the hallway and closed the bedroom door. Not a slam, just a soft, final click that said the conversation was over for him. I sat down on the couch, picked up the necklace, and held it under the lamp. The diamond caught the light in quiet, stubborn sparkles. It wasn't cheap. It wasn't fake. It was exactly what he'd said he wanted from exactly the jeweler he'd worshipped out loud 3 times a week. I had the receipt in my email. I had the certification in my desk drawer. He'd looked at all of that. The sacrifice, the intention, the careful planning, and seen embarrassing. I sat there for 20 minutes, maybe more, staring at the pendant until the light blurred. Then I put it back in the box, slid the box into my bag, and pulled a throw blanket off the back of the couch. The bedroom door stayed closed. I lay down on the couch and stared at the ceiling, the outline of a decision forming itself in my mind, clean and sharp. Tomorrow I would go to the jeweler, and this time I'd be the one deciding what was worth keeping. Wednesday morning, the apartment sounded different. Quieter somehow, even though it was always pretty quiet. The bedroom door was open. Ethan's side of the bed was empty, sheets smoothed like he'd made them with one hand while checking his reflection with the other. I checked the time on my phone, 7:12 a.m. He'd left early. Of course he had. I sat up, muscles stiff from the couch, and for a second I forgot why my neck hurt. Then I saw the indentation on the coffee table where the necklace box had been, and it all snapped back into place. I put the box on the table, opened it one last time, and just looked at it. It didn't look cheap. It looked like a choice. I closed the lid, slid it into my bag, and walked into the kitchen. The light over the sink was a dingy yellow that made the counter look stained, even when it wasn't. I filled the kettle. While the water heated, I opened my email on my phone and pulled up the receipt. The number glared up at me. $200. I stared at it until the digits blurred. My brain did this automatic thing it always does with money. It converted the amount into time. Hours at my job. Nights I'd stayed late. Weekends I'd spent doing freelance work instead of going out. Dinners I'd said no to. Shoes I'd walked past. The extra streaming service I'd canceled and pretended I didn't miss. 2 months of small, quiet sacrifices for a gift he'd held up between two fingers like something sticky he'd accidentally stepped in. The kettle whistled. I turned off the burner, poured water over instant coffee, took one sip and set it down. My stomach wasn't interested. The jeweler's website said they opened at 10 Omicom. It was barely 8. I showered, pulled on jeans and a sweater, tied my hair back. My movements felt careful, deliberate, like I was walking through a room full of glass. At 9:40, I grabbed my keys, my bag, and the box and left. The sky was overcast, the city colorless in a way that felt appropriate. The jeweler was in a part of town I'd never had a reason to visit until Ethan started saying things like heritage craftsmanship and investment pieces with a straight face. The storefront gleamed, gold lettering on glass, subtle enough to be smug. Inside, there was soft music, softer lighting, and the faint, expensive smell of polish. The woman at the counter looked up and smiled. "Oh, hi," she said. "You're back." Her eyes went to the bag on my shoulder. "Did he love it?" For a second, I thought I might cry right there on the polished floor. "Actually," I said, swallowing, "I need to return it." Her smile faltered. "Oh, no. Was there a problem with the piece?" "No," I said. "The piece is fine. It just wasn't what he wanted." "We made it exactly to the specifications he emailed us," she said gently, like she was reassuring me I hadn't messed up. I blinked. "He emailed you?" "Yes," she said. "About 2 months ago. Very detailed instructions. Chain thickness, diamond size, clasp type. We still have it on file, if that helps with anything." My fingers tightened around the strap of my bag. "Can I see it?" I asked. "Of course." She turned to the computer, tapped a few keys, then swiveled the monitor slightly so I could see. There it was. Ethan's name in the sender line. The subject, custom pendant specs. The body was a list, down to millimeters and carats and clasp style. "It's exactly this necklace?" I asked, hearing how small my voice sounded. "Yes," she said. "We followed his email to the letter. When you came in and placed the order, we linked it to that correspondence." I stared at the screen. He had sent them the details himself, 8 weeks ago. Before I ever walked into this place, before I rearranged my budget, before I picked up extra work, before I said no to my sister when she asked if I wanted to do a weekend trip because I'm trying to save right now. He designed the test in advance. "Is something wrong?" the woman asked softly. "No," I said, though everything felt wrong. The air, the floor, my entire relationship. I still need to return it." She hesitated. "Because it's a custom piece, I can only do store credit," she said. "But it will be for the full amount. And I can print the appraisal if you'd like. It shows the value and details." "Store credit is fine," I said. My voice was steady in a way that surprised me. "And yes, please print the appraisal." She took the box, opened it reverently, inspected the necklace like it was something precious, which it was, just not in the way I'd thought. She processed the return. The printer hummed, spitting out 2 sheets. "Here's the store credit," she said, sliding one toward me. The number, $3,200, stared back at me in cold ink. "And here's the appraisal. 14-karat white gold, 1/4-karat diamond, custom chain, total value." She kept talking, but my brain had already moved ahead, past her counter, past the door, back to our apartment and the empty spot on our coffee table. "I'm sorry it didn't work out," she said. "Me too," I replied. Outside, the air felt colder than it had when I walked in. I folded the appraisal into thirds and slid it into my bag. On the drive home, my hands felt disconnected from my body. They turned the wheel. They used the signal. They obeyed traffic laws. The rest of me was replaying last night on a loop. This looks cheap. People will think you grabbed it from a discount bin. Not, I don't like the style. Not, can we exchange it? Just cheap. Embarrassing. A reflection on him. When I got back to the apartment, it was still empty. His sneakers were by the door. His jacket hung on the hook. It felt like walking onto a set after everyone had already left. I went straight to the kitchen table and placed the appraisal in the very center, smoothing it flat with my palms. Then I grabbed an old envelope from the junk drawer and a pen. On the back, in my neatest handwriting, I wrote, "This is the appraisal for the cheap necklace you rejected. The jeweler confirmed you sent detailed specifications for this exact piece 2 months ago. I returned it for store credit. You can use it for something that better meets your standards. I'm staying with a friend for a while. We'll talk when I'm ready." I read it twice, making sure every word said exactly what I meant. Then I took my apartment key off my ring and placed it next to the paper. In our bedroom, I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Not everything. Enough for a week or two. Clothes, toiletries, the worn paperback I always left half-finished on my nightstand. My laptop, charger, passport, just in case. I looked at the bed we'd shared, the dent in the mattress on his side, the slight sag where he always kept his phone charging, the pile of laundry in the corner that he always said he'd get to this weekend. It hit me that I didn't actually know what it would look like to stay and trust him again. Not really. But I knew exactly what it would look like to ignore this and keep pretending everything was fine. I zipped up the suitcase, grabbed my bag, and took one last slow walk through the apartment. The plant on the windowsill I'd rescued from his old place. The frame photo from our first vacation, me in sunglasses, him in a linen shirt, both of us squinting into the sun. I remembered how he'd insisted we take it again because his watch wasn't visible. At the door, I paused. The appraisal and the key sat on the table like props in a scene I was stepping out of. I left. In the parking lot, I dialed Jared. He picked up on the second ring. "Hey, Hannah, everything okay?" "Not really," I said. My voice cracked on the second word. Is your couch still available?" "Always," he said immediately. "You want me to come get you?" "No," I said. "I'm already in the car. I'll be there in 20. When I arrived, he didn't ask questions right away. He just opened the door, took my suitcase, and handed me a cold beer. We sat on his couch, an old, soft thing that had probably seen better days, but felt more like home than my minimalist sofa ever had. "So," he said gently, once I'd taken a sip, "what happened?" I told him. I told him about the restaurant and the watch and the box in the closet, about cheap and embarrassing and mall kiosk jokes, about the jeweler and the email and the store credit, about how it felt to realize the person who was supposed to know me best had built an entire test designed for me to fail. He let out a low whistle. "So he set you up," he said, "and then got mad when you didn't magically read his mind." "I don't even know if it was about the necklace," I said. "I think he wanted to feel disappointed, like that was the goal." "That's messed up, Han." "I know." My phone started buzzing on the coffee table. I didn't have to look to know who it was. "Ethan." It rang 5 times before going to voicemail. Then again, and again. I turned it over so I didn't have to see his name, but the vibration kept rattling against the wood. After the 5th call, the buzzing stopped. Then the text began. "Where are you? Why is there an appraisal on the table? Call me back. This is ridiculous. We need to talk. You can't just leave like this." I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Jared glanced over. "You going to answer?" "Not right now," I said. I turned the phone off. We ordered pizza, put on a game neither of us cared about. I laughed at something stupid the commentator said and heard how brittle it sounded. Around 10, after the credits rolled and the pizza box sat empty on the coffee table, I turned my phone back on. 23 missed calls, 30-something texts, 3 voicemails. I listened to the first one. "Okay," Ethan's voice said, thinner than usual. "I saw the appraisal. I didn't realize it was that expensive. We should talk. Call me." The second. "I'm sorry, all right? I didn't mean to hurt your feelings. The necklace is actually really nice. I was just surprised. Please come home so we can fix this." The third. "Where are you? It's been hours. This is really unfair. You can't just leave without talking to me." I deleted them all. The texts were more of the same until one stopped me. "My friends are asking why you're acting like this. What am I supposed to tell them?" It was like a spotlight aimed straight at the core of him. Not, "Are you okay?" Not, "Can we talk?" Just, "What story do I tell so I don't look bad?" I typed back before I could overthink it. "Tell them the truth." His reply came almost instantly. "What truth? That you're overreacting?" I stared at the blinking cursor. Then I wrote, Tell them you rejected a $3,200 custom necklace you personally specified, called it cheap and embarrassing, and now you're upset that I believed you. The delivered checkmark appeared, then nothing. No typing bubble, no instant defense, just silence, stretching out like a road I suddenly saw all the way to the horizon. Jared nudged my knee with his foot. You okay? I exhaled slowly. For the first time all day, my chest didn't feel like it was full of broken glass. Not really, I said, but I think I will be. I set the phone face down, turned out the lamp, and pulled the blanket over myself on the couch. Tomorrow I'd go back for the rest of my things. Tonight, it was enough to know I'd finally stopped mistaking expensive for valuable. Thursday morning, I woke up on Jared's couch with my neck angled, in a shape the human body was never meant to attempt. There was a sliver of light slicing through his blinds, dust drifting through it like slow-motion snow. For a moment, the unfamiliar room disoriented me. Secondhand couch, mismatched throw pillows, a stack of mail on the coffee table with someone else's name on it. Then my phone buzzed, and everything snapped back into focus. A text from Ethan. We need to talk, please. I stared at the screen. My stomach didn't clench this time. It just settled heavily, like it already knew the answer. I typed back. I'm coming by at 2 p.m. to get the rest of my things. Please don't be there. The typing bubbles appeared instantly. We should talk face to face. Not ready for that, I replied. This is stupid, he shot back. You're throwing away 2 years over one comment. I closed my eyes and inhaled slowly. It's not one comment. What pattern? He wrote. I didn't answer. Let him sit in the question he never wanted to examine. I set the phone down gently, like it might detonate. Morning, Jared said from the kitchen doorway, hair sticking up, wearing a t-shirt for a band he definitely didn't listen to anymore. There's coffee. It's bad, but it exists. Bad is fine, I said. He handed me a mug, sat across from me, and didn't push. That's one of the things I've always liked about Jared. He gives people room to breathe. Room to unfold. You heading back today? He asked softly. Yeah, I said. Just to pack. I'm not staying. His jaw ticked, but he didn't say anything judgmental, just nodded. Want me to come with you? No, I said. I need to do this on my own. He accepted that. Some people don't understand the difference between support and intrusion. Jared does. At 1:50, I grabbed my bag and keys, steadied my breathing, and headed out. The drive to the apartment felt shorter than it ever had. Maybe because I wasn't driving home. I was driving to a place I used to live. His car was in the lot. Of course it was. I stood outside the door for a moment, the weight of everything pressing against my ribs. Then I inserted the spare key I'd never given him back, turned it, and stepped inside. He was sitting on the couch, the appraisal paper held loosely in his hands. The edges were wrinkled like he'd been gripping it too tightly. When he looked up at me, his eyes were raw. Not red like he'd been crying, more like he'd been unraveling. Hannah, he said, please, can we talk? I'm here to pack, I said. 5 minutes, that's all. He set the appraisal on the table slowly, like it was fragile. I'm sorry, he said. Okay, I replied. I didn't know how much it cost. I thought you'd gone somewhere. Cheaper. I didn't know you'd actually gotten it from Jennings. If I'd known... I held up my hand. Stop, I said. Listen to what you're saying. Your apology depends on the price tag. That's not fair, he said quickly. I didn't mean you're cheap. You called the necklace cheap, I said. And you called it embarrassing. And you barely looked at it before deciding that. He opened his mouth, closed it, then tried again. I didn't think you'd want to spend that much on me. I spent what I could, I said. I saved. For months. I made choices. I put thought into it. You didn't even consider that. His voice broke on the next part. I didn't know you ordered it to my specifications. I stared at him. He blinked. A slow, fearful realization spread across his face. You saw the email, he whispered. Yes, I said. His shoulders slumped as if his whole frame folded in on itself. I didn't mean to set you up, he said, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I wanted it to be perfect. And when I saw it, I panicked. I thought it looked different than I imagined. I thought maybe you missed something. It was exactly what you asked for, I said quietly. You asked for the chain thickness, the diamond size, the clasp, all of it. He pushed a hand through his hair. I forgot what I wrote, he said. It was months ago, and when I opened the box, something felt off. I don't know. Maybe I was expecting something flashier, something more like what Lila used to get you, I asked. He froze. There it was, the ghost that had been haunting our relationship without ever being named aloud. His silence told me enough. Ethan, I said, softer this time, You wanted a replica of someone else's relationship, and I was never going to be her. His throat bobbed. I don't want you to be her, he said. You compare me to her without realizing you're doing it, I said. You care about brands, labels, how things look, how we look. You care about people's reactions more than the meaning behind something. That's not true, he whispered. When you gave me the watch last night, I said, it wasn't about the thought behind it. It was about the boutique, the model who wore it, the fact that you had connections to get it. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. When I gave you something meaningful, you measured it by how it would look to other people, I said. Not what it meant, not what it cost me, not in money, but in effort. His face crumpled for the first time, actually crumpled. Hannah, please don't leave. I should have felt something in that moment. Relief, vindication, regret, something. Instead, I felt clarity, cold, clean, and exact. I'm not leaving because you made one mistake, I said. I'm leaving because this mistake showed me everything else. He stood abruptly, like he needed to close the distance between us. Can we fix it? He asked. We can go to counseling, or talk to someone. I can change. I don't need you to change, I said. I need someone who already values the things I value, who doesn't turn love into a performance, who doesn't make me feel small for not living in the same aesthetic universe. He went still. I walked past him to the bedroom and began packing the rest of my clothes into 2 suitcases. He stood in the doorway, shoulders sagged, eyes defeated, watching but not moving. When I zipped the second suitcase, he stepped forward. Please, Hannah, I love you. I paused, hand on the handle. You love the version of me who fits into your curated world, I said. But the real me, the one who packs lunches and saves coupons and buys thoughtful gifts instead of flashy ones, you don't love her. You tolerate her. A tear finally slipped down his cheek. I walked to the door with both suitcases, my heart steady, my hands steady. When I pulled the door open, he whispered, Is this really it? This is me, I said, believing you, for the first time. Then I stepped into the hallway, and the door closed quietly behind me. Not slammed, not locked. Just closed. A choice made. A future shifting. The first night after I officially left Ethan, I slept on Jared's couch without dreaming. Not because I was at peace. Peace was still a distant city on the horizon, but because my body had finally shut down after running on adrenaline for 48 hours. By morning, the ache behind my ribs felt duller, manageable, like a bruise I could touch without wincing. Jared left early for work, but he'd scribbled a note on a sticky pad. Eat something. Even heartbreak needs calories. Jay. It made me smile in a way nothing else had in days. I sat up, stretched, and checked my phone. 3 new texts from Ethan. Hannah, please, we need to talk. Can you at least tell me where you're staying? I'm worried. I'm trying here. Why aren't you? I didn't reply, not because I wanted to punish him, but because responding would have taken me backward. And I wasn't going back. Not anymore. By the end of the week, I'd found a temporary co-working space to take my laptop, so I wasn't hogging Jared's living room all day. By the end of week 2, I'd toured 5 apartments, signed paperwork on 1, and put down a deposit. A small 1-bedroom on the east side, affordable, quiet, close enough to work that I could walk when the weather cooperated. On move-in day, I stood in the empty living room with its blank walls and dust drifting through window light. And for the first time in months, nothing in the space reminded me of him. No designer catalogs on the coffee table, no curated neutral throw blankets draped over chairs, no carefully posed Instagram photos taped to the fridge, just possibility and air that belonged to me. I sat on the floor, cross-legged, and let the silence hum around me. On day 3 in the new apartment, Ethan texted again. I saw on your LinkedIn you started a new job. Congrats. I mean it. I stared at the message. Kindness, but from a distance. The kind of message people send when they want credit for being civil, not when they want resolution. I didn't respond. He sent one more message that night. I'm sorry, for everything. Please don't hate me. I didn't hate him. That was the strangest part. Hatred requires a fire I no longer had. What I felt was clearer, cooler, a sense of understanding that had arrived too late to save us, but just in time to save me. I put the phone down and let the quiet settle around me. A week later, I checked social media for the first time since leaving him. And there he was, Ethan, smiling beside a woman with glossy hair, long lashes, a designer coat draped over her shoulders, like a status badge. They stood beside a luxury SUV with a bow on the hood, like a dealership advertisement. She tagged the brand. He tagged the boutique where they'd had their winter cocktail date. It stung. Not because he'd moved on, but because he looked right next to her. Like he'd stepped back into a life he'd tried to mold me into, but I never quite fit. I closed the app, exhaled slowly. It didn't feel like betrayal. It felt like confirmation. Toward the end of the 6th week, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I let it go to voicemail. Then curiosity nudged me to check. Hi, Hannah. This is Irene from Jennings Fine Jewelry. Just checking in to see if you've decided what you'd like to do with your store credit. No rush. It never expires. Give us a call anytime. Hope you're well. I stared at the message for a long moment. The store credit. $300 sitting quietly in my name, waiting. A symbolic aftershock of the implosion that had blown open the truth about my relationship. I deleted the message, but not before saving the number. That night I called my mom. She picked up on the second ring. Hi, sweetheart. How's the new place? Did the stove get fixed? Yeah, I said. The super replaced it this morning. How's your heart? She asked gently. I let out a breath I didn't realize I'd been holding. Better, I said. Not perfect, but better. Good, she said, relief softening her voice. You deserve better. She didn't mean better than Ethan, specifically. She meant better than someone who made me feel small, who made love conditional, who measured worth in receipts and reactions. Hey, Mom, I said. Your birthday's in a few months, right? It is, she said, suspicious. Why? No reason, I said, smiling. Just wondering. When we hung up, I sat on the floor of my living room, the soft hum of evening settling outside my window. I thought about the necklace I'd returned, the long hours I'd put into saving for it, the way Ethan had held it between 2 fingers like something disposable. And then I thought about my mom, a woman who kept every card I'd ever given her in a shoebox labeled treasures, who wore the $40 bracelet I'd bought her at 19 as if it were made of diamonds, who knew the value of effort, not appearance. Maybe one day I'd use the store credit for her, or maybe I wouldn't use it at all. Maybe it could stay unspent, an unspoken reminder of the moment I stopped mistaking luxury for love. A few nights later, Jared came over with a bag of groceries and 3 mismatched containers of leftover takeout. He looked around my little apartment with approval. This place suits you, he said. It actually looks like someone lives here, not like someone's trying to stage it for a catalog. I laughed. It's not much. It's yours, he said. That's everything. We ate on the floor because I didn't have a dining table yet. He told me about his disastrous date with a woman who tried to psychoanalyze him over dumplings. I told him about the neighbor downstairs who listened to jazz loudly at exactly 10 p.m. every night. He told me it meant the guy had taste. I told him it meant the guy had questionable timing. It felt easy, natural, warm in a way I hadn't realized I'd been missing. After he left, I washed the dishes, turned off the kitchen light, and leaned against the doorway of my bare little living room. 33, starting over, again. But not from nothing, from clarity. Some people think heartbreak is a fracture, something jagged and sharp that cuts through everything. For me, it was more like a window being washed. Everything looked clearer afterward. The smudges I'd mistaken for normal were gone. I didn't need someone who worshipped labels. I didn't need someone who treated gifts like public relations. I didn't need someone who made me feel like I was almost enough, but never quite. I needed someone who saw me, the real me. The woman who saved receipts and coupons and meaningful moments. The woman who bought the right gift, not because it was expensive, but because she'd listened. The woman who wanted love that was quiet, steady, human, not curated. And as I turned off the last lamp for the night, I realized something with a stillness that felt like truth. I hadn't lost anything. I'd reclaimed myself. The best part? I didn't even have to return that.